Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Professor Kaviani. My name is Annahita Mahdavi West. We are here on behalf of the Free Iran Scholars Network to have a discussion or presentation by Professor Kaviani regarding Nowruz. We decided as the network to dedicate this presentation to the Nowruz celebration and to our people, especially that we know that in lieu of recent events and the Women Life Freedom, Zan Zendegi Azadi revolution, the celebrations in Iran can be very different because of the loss of lives, the oppression, and the horrible things that has happened to our people. The concept of Nowruz being a new beginning and the hope that it brings with it, we decided that maybe this presentation could be a good way to start the celebrations. And with that, I would like to also introduce our wonderful speaker, presenter, Dr. Khodadad Kaviani. Is a professor of education in Central Washington University in Washington State. His research and teaching include the Middle Eastern politics and culture, democratic education, and the intersection of education and ideology. He is the author of Rethinking Khayyamism, درست گفتم. His controversial poems and visions. And 3 illustrated books about selected Iran and Zoroastrian traditions. They are Nowruz with My Family, Mehragan, The Triumph of Liberty Over Tyranny, Iranian Calendar, Stories, Myths, Legends, and History. Professor Kaviani has produced 16 cultural songs about the living Iranian traditions that have been celebrated by our ancestors and kept alive the Zoroastrians. And the songs are available through the digital archives at the Central Washington University. That's very impressive, Dr. Kaviani. So thank you for giving your time to us. I think I personally am very excited to hear your presentation. I know you and I had some discussions before about some of the mythologies of ancient Persia, and it's very exciting to know. So I had a few questions for you, but I think I'm going to just present my questions to you and just let you go through your presentation. So we are here to hear you give us a brief history of Nowruz, its foundations and original form to the modern day of Nowruz celebrations. And hopefully we would like to hear from you about this concepts of Nowruz Jamshidi. And also, I would like to see if you can tell us about the history and concepts of Hafsin. We all do Hafsin, and it would be nice to know. I mean, we hear about it, but it would be nice to hear from an expert such as yourself and why number 7. And then I always was really interested to know why 13. چرا 13 آیا واقعا 13 به در or 13 is an unlucky number. And then you talked about this concept with me, and I thought it would be nice for the audience to know about the Mire Nowruzi. So maybe you can conclude with that, and I will give the floor to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for the generous introduction. Today, thank you all for being with us, for celebrating Nowruz with us. I have prepared a short PowerPoint that has some pictures and things that, so it looks like it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh.
So if that
I thought you are a co-host, but I'm going to make you a co-host again. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Thanks. So the Nowruz is a time to celebrate a new beginning, So let me first say that may your everyday be Nowruz, and may your Nowruz be Piruz. Nowruz is really about renewal, hope, and agency for making our dreams come true. Nowruz is active, full of growth and possibilities. Nowruz is an important shared tradition and value that connects more than 300 million people who are part of the greater Iranian culture that include the people of Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, Azerbaijan, India, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Turkey, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, and the Balkan region and parts of Africa. March 21st has been recognized by the United Nations as the International Day of Nowruz. Nowruz takes us back farther than history and into the ancient Iranian myths and legends. First mentioned in Shahnameh Ferdowsi, the Book of Kings, in the story of King Jamshid. That's why Nowruz is also known as Nowruz Jamshidi. Nowruz means new day. Jamshid is made up of two words, Jam, which means twin, twin-born, and Shid, meaning shining light. Jamshid was son of Tahmures, the fourth king from the Pishdadi dynasty. Pishdadi refers to the first Iranian kings who established laws and brought order to their society. Here is a list of Jamshid's innovations and accomplishments according to Shahnameh. Making war tools from iron. Think of it as the early introduction of human society to industrialization after the discovery of fire by Hushain Shah that we celebrate in the form of Jashn Sadeh. The concept of Jashn or celebration is from the Yasn or Yasna in Avesta language. Number two, teaching people how to make fine clothes. Think of it as him being a fashion designer, perhaps the fashion influencer of his time, which is also a sign of prosperity. Number three, establishing 4 groups of priests, warriors, farmers, and merchants. It is important to note that for the priests, their designated place was in the mountains. He must have known something about keeping the religious establishment out of people's way. Today, we have Pope in Vatican City, and maybe someday we can have the mullahs restricted to Rome only. 4, using geometry to build houses and palaces by bricks and mortar. Number 5, extracting gold, silver, and precious stones to enhance people's lives. Number 6, making rose water, incense, and other fragrances. Number 7, building ships and navigating the seas for exploration and trade. And finally, he's the founder of Nowruz. That's why we also refer to this day as Nowruz Jamshidi. And there are more to it that I'll explain. The story of Nowruz Jamshidi is in a nutshell goes something like this. King Jamshid was a brilliant and imaginative innovator who impressed everyone with his many inventions and good deeds. He enjoyed the divine blessing or the Farre-i Izadi. By the way, everybody has that. During his reign, everyone was prosperous and healthy. To celebrate his accomplishments, on the first day of Nowruz, the day of Urmezd in the month of Farvardin, people gathered around him, offering him gifts and well wishes. People were happy, and they were dancing, playing music, drank wine. There was a festive mood in the air. He sat on his throne and was carried into the sky by eagles tied to the four posts of his throne. In a sense, he conquered the sky. You could say before the Wright brothers, Jamshid had solved the mystery of flight. This was an eagle-powered flight. It's noteworthy to mention he was also doing things that no ordinary person had done before him. He was a genius and had done the impossible. Eventually, he saw himself without a rival and became arrogant and egotistical. Power had gotten into his head. He started to demand total obedience from everyone around him. People became displeased with him, and the divine blessing, or the Fareh Izadi, left him. With his demise, Iran fell into chaos, and Ajidahak, or commonly known as Zahak, became the new ruthless king who ruled in Iran for 1,000 years minus 1 day. This very long period is perhaps symbolic of how time is experienced by ordinary citizens when dictators rule over them. So when we say Nowruzatan Piruz, may you have a victorious new day, what we are really wishing is to have enough wisdom, courage, and the strength to tame our ego and remain humble and just, and use our agency to improve our life and the lives of others around us. What we are saying in that saying has to do with the wish that each of us really is a king in our own right, and our deeds matter. We have agency. If we fail to tame our ego, we will experience what King Jamshid had gone through and fall from grace, and the result would be suffering for those who are around us. A beautiful poem is, as part of Shahnameh, we see this poem that says, Sar sal no Hormuz Farvadin, barasude az ranj tan dil zakin. What it means, it has to do with a new year begins on the day of Hormuz in the month of Farvardin, a time to rest the body and cleanse the heart. Well, the fact that King Jamshid chose the first day of spring to celebrate Nowruz indicates that an advanced knowledge of astronomy existed during his time. But what is Hormuz and what is Farvardin? To answer these questions, it is necessary to examine the Iranian calendar and the celebrations that are part of the Zoroastrian roots of Iran. The ancient Iranian solar calendar recognizes 12 months that are names of Amshaspandan, or the holy immortals, and the guardian angels, think of them as Izadan. The holy immortals, or Amshaspandan, are the attributes of Ahura Mazda or Hormuzd, the creator. So what are these? These are really the attributes. Hormuz, Ahura Mazda, Mazda Ahura are really all the same. Today, we have Strait of Hormuz in the Persian Gulf and the popular Japanese car Mazda having the same source for their names. Each month has 30 days, with each day named after a guardian angel, or Izad, or a holy immortal, or Amshaspan. That remind us of the importance of values like friendship, trust, truth, hard work, peace, and tranquility, material wealth, and other things that are essential for creating and sustaining an advanced and prosperous society. The last 5 days of the year are named after the 5 chapters of Zoroaster's songs. Together, they produce a stable and predictable schedule to plan the food production and run the state affairs, like when to collect taxes and so forth. In short, the ancient Iranian calendar represents a vision for an ideal society that values life, liberty, happiness, general welfare of the people, prosperity, justice, clear and rational thinking. Don't we miss that today? Respect for the elements of water, air, earth, and fire, and recognizes the central role of women in all aspects of life. The slogan of Woman, Life, Freedom, Zan, Zendegi, Azadi, is evident in this ancient Iranian calendar. In this worldview, expressed through the ancient Iranian calendar, we have at least 12 festivals per year. One for each month. Nowruz is the first festival of the new year. When the name of the day and the name of the month match or coincide with the name of Urmez, we honor that Izad or Amshahspand. Like the day of Urmez and the month of Farvardin, that marks the start of the warm season, the spring season, or in short, Nowruz. Now, when we think about the concept of Haftzin and where that comes from, well, let's talk about that. Let us review the names of the first 7 days of each month and their connections to Haftzin. As you will see, each of these holy immortals, Amshahspandan, has helpers. So in other words, you can't do it alone. We got to do this together. This goes to show we are all connected and need each other if we are to preserve the earth and have a prosperous and peaceful existence. Day in Persian means creator. So you may know that we have day Esfand, right? Month number 11 is also day. So that means creator. So Day Be'azar means the creator of fire. Day Be'mer means creator of mer. And Day Be'din means the creator of consciousness, ability to distinguish right from wrong. So Din in this sense is not religion. It has to do with ability to distinguish things. And Hormuz or Urmezd or Mazda Ahura is the name made up of feminine and masculine attributes that are combined together. You may be interested in knowing that Ahura is a masculine attribute that means life or life-giving. And Mazda is the feminine attribute, meaning the greater or the great wisdom or the great wise one. The next 6 slides represent the attributes of Urmez that we will see their reflection in the Haftzin table. The first one, the first Amshahspand is Bahman. Bahman Amshahspand means good thoughts. People may put a glass of milk or yogurt or white jasmine flower as part of the Haftzin table or Haftzin cloth to represent Ahura Mazda's attribute of purity and peaceful nature. So here you are beginning to see the framework for what is this Ahura Mazda all about. So you're putting the boundaries, in a sense, on Ahura Mazda, and the first attribute has to do with purity and peaceful. So Ahura Mazda can never trick you or harm you or any of that stuff. Ardibehesht, or Ordibehesht, as people say these days, Ardibehesht Amshahspand represents the best truth and purity a source of light, like candle, typically one for each member of the family, representing for each member of the family is placed on the half-seen cloth, and greenery can be seen. This time of the year, nature is at its peak and everything is pretty and all flowers, everything is in full bloom. Shahri Baram Shahspand is all about strong leadership for and with justice. So it's not just being a strong ruler. It has to do the elements of justice is essential part of it. This ideal form of governance is represented by metal objects like metal bowl or gold or silver coins. Remember the poem that we read earlier, or when we talked about Jamshid, some of his accomplishments? The first one had to do with making things out of iron. And he's the king, so that's part of the apparatus that kings control. And today we have governments control. Sepandar Mezam Shahspand represents the Holy Land. So when we talk about in Iranian worldview, when we talk about Holy Lands, we are talking about the entire planet. She is also known as the daughter of Ahura Mazda. This goes to show the importance of women as her counterparts on earth. The colorful half-seen cloth is her symbol. It's the cloth that everything else is placed on it and supports us all. Musk willow or gole bidmeshk is the plant for Esfand, which is the name of the 12th month of the year. Khodadad or Haur Batat Am Shahspand represents good health, spiritual perfection, that is the guardian of waters. A bowl of water, in it floating apple or orange representing the earth, shows our planet in space. And as you can see, Teshtar or Bald Farwadin are also Khodadad's helpers. Once again, you can't do it alone. We got to do it together. And this is one symbolic representation of that. And finally, Amordad, Am Shahspand, which today people say Mordad, but it's really Amordad, meaning immortal. And the word immortal comes from this word, represents the immortality of the creator, and the attributes associated with Amordad are good thoughts, peacemaking, being honest, being humble, and kind towards others. On the half-seen cloth, we find green plants, colorful flowers, and vinegar to represent this holy immortal. Some may say, why vinegar? Well, because it has to do sirke, it has to do with the fact that it comes from grapes. Of course, people may add other plant-based food to their half-seen, like baked bread, cookies, candies, sumac, somar, samanu, which is a sweet, thick paste made from freshly sprouted wheat that is nutritious and delicious. They also add colorful eggs to half-seen to represent the start of life, that they have a part in making it joyful and pleasant. So there again, we have this notion of agency. Garlic is also a repellent of illnesses and lowers the blood pressure. So you find that there. Pomegranate is another fruit with lots of red seeds, and the red is the color of life and the plentifulness of it because it has so many seeds. Bread, which is the food staple for billions of people around the world. Senjed or silverberry is a fruit the size of a cherry, symbol of love because it has a very hard center. Now, we also find fish in water that represents the passing of the last month of the year Esfand. And life is in motion. Nothing stays constant. Everything is constantly in motion. Coins from the Mughal period also show a ram representing the Aries constellation, marking the start of Nowruz. Now, whether 13 is unlucky, not in the Iranian worldview. Sizdah Badar means the outing of the 13th. This outing happens on the 13th day of the month, which is called Ruzatir, or Day of Teshtar, and it is associated with the rain star Mercury. The Iranian plateau has always been thirsty for water, and people value water. They have figured out ways to preserve it. And Qanat is an example of that, to take water from its source inside, deep inside Iran, places where it would be water would evaporate, but through the Qanat system, they're able to carry that water. On this day, families and friends go on a picnic. They go to parks, they visit gardens, or simply get out of the city. They return the greenery that they have grown back to nature and throw it in running water in the hope of perpetuating life, perpetuating the greenery. They sing songs, they dance, and have a great time. And this concludes, this really culminates the Nowruz celebration. Now, on to the question about the Mir Nowruzi. There are different ways that people who make up the greater Iran really celebrate Nowruz. What they all have in common is that 10 days before Nowruz, they start cleaning their homes. That is pretty much universal. During the last Wednesday of the year, or think of it as the last 5 days of the year, also known as Panje, villagers choose a person amongst themselves to become the Mir, or the ruler. So Mir really means ruler. This Mir Nowruzi is given new clothes, a horse, armband, a sword, and other valuables, all the things that you would see a king would have. These are lent to him, so these are not for him to keep. It's just, okay, you can have these for the next 5 days. And they decorate him. They decorate his crown with peacock feathers and hoist the flag behind him in the tradition of kings. People visit him and wish him a happy and victorious Nowruz. His temporary rule lasts for 5 days only. Hafiz has a poem about Mir Nowruzi, and he says, سخن در پرده میگویم چو گل از غنچه بیرون آی که بیش از 5 روزی نیست حکم میر نوروزی. I say this in codes, bloom like a new bud. In just 5 days, the reign of Mir Nowruzi ends in a thud. What he's saying is this: life is precious and short. Enjoy it. Work to make other people's lives better. Farvardin is the month dedicated to Faravashi, or Faravahar, or Fravahr. Fravahr means protector, sustainer, also known as the energy of progress. That's the symbol you see on the top left-hand side of this slide. It always faces the person that's intended to. 10 days before Nowruz, the Faravashis return to their ancestral homes and want to see everybody happy. That's why 10 days before Nowruz, people start doing house cleaning. Khane Takani. On the first day of Nowruz, they return to their place wherever that is, up in somewhere, right? They return, in a sense, they join its essence. So it came to us from the creator, they return to the creator. That's why people in villages still lit fire on their rooftops as a guide for the safe return of the Faravashis. This is a symbolic act of wishing them safe return and a farewell to their visitors. This is another side of hospitality that the people of really greater Iranian culture are famous for. At this point, let me thank you all for celebrating Nowruz with us. May your Nowruz be Piruz, wishing you good health and happy heart. Tandurust dilshad bashid.
Thank you so much, Professor Kaviani. This is just so fascinating. I think every subject that you address can be expanded to a whole lecture. For us that just celebrate this wonderful tradition every year, to know this much detail of the roots of formation of this celebration is just, I feel like it's so necessary, not to mention so fascinating. I enjoyed this presentation so much. I'm sure that the audience that will watch this presentation will do the same. And I hope that we can have more series in this, in the concepts of Iranian traditions and history and where they come from. It's a rich history, and I think keeping up with the traditions is a healthy thing when it comes to the identities of people that are celebrating their traditions from every nationality or ethnicity. So I thank you so much. And also happy Nowruz to you. I hope that the concepts of Nowruz that, as you mentioned, it has to do with purity and justice and hope and wisdom and freedom would become the concepts that would rule our country sooner than later. So I don't know if you want to have anything to add before we end.
Thank you so much. This was really just a short summary or snippets of many of the wonderful traditions that we have, that if I've mentioned this oftentimes, that is, I hope everybody at least would learn about the month that they are born in and all the celebrations and traditions associated with that. And with that, I appreciate all of your patience, staying with us up to this time and watching, and hopefully you learned a few things about Nowruz. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day and Nowruz Piruz.
Thanks.